Welcome to function-based interventions. Function is what connects the antecedent behavior and consequence. It is what the student has learned about the relationship between their behavior and the environment. The student learns that under these antecedent conditions, if I engage in this behavior, I can expect this consequence. If the consequence is beneficial to the student, it is functional, and the student is likely to engage in that behavior again under similar conditions in the future. When it comes to intervention planning, the function of student behavior will be used to guide us in selecting effective interventions to prevent problem behavior, identify and teach an appropriate replacement behavior, and determine ways to effectively reinforce positive behavior and redirect problem behavior. I'm going to give you a moment to look at this slide. Why is the function of behavior important? This is where function-based interventions get serious. If we are not careful when selecting interventions, we can actually choose interventions that can make the problem behavior worse and more resistant to change. When considering this, I think of the Hippocratic Oath in medicine. First, do no harm. If during behavior intervention planning we are arbitrarily choosing interventions out of a hat, we have a 2 out of 3 chance that the intervention will have no effect or worst case scenario even make behavior worse. There's only a 1 in 3 chance that we will choose an effective intervention. Using functions of behavior is the best guide to selecting effective interventions. See the cloud next to have no effect? Interventions that have no effect can be seen as fluff. Fluffy interventions are not bad things. They're often things that might be good practice for most students. For example, a general reminder to be respectful. But often they are not sufficient to support our students requiring individual behavior support. Another challenge is that with busy teachers, we can often only ask them to reasonably implement 3 or 4 interventions. So we want to make sure that we are not implementing fluff, but that we are choosing function-based interventions with the highest chance of supporting student and teacher success. As you learn about identifying interventions based on the function of behavior, you also need to consider contextual fit. This is the extent that the interventions will work for the teachers or staff members who will be implementing the interventions. The interventions must be feasible and fit the style and values of the implementer. Let me give you a moment to look at this. Behavior intervention plans have 2 primary goals. We want to reduce inappropriate behavior while increasing appropriate behavior. There are a couple of things to consider. Intervention plans and strategies emphasizing skills students need in order to behave in a more appropriate manner, or plans providing a motivation to conform to required standards, are more effective than plans that simply serve to control behavior. Interventions based on control often fail to generalize. That is, they don't continue to be used for long periods of time or in many settings or in a variety of situations. They often only serve to suppress the behavior, which results in the child's meeting the same needs in other, usually equally inappropriate ways. Proactive, positive intervention plans that teach students new ways of behaving, on the other hand, address both the source of the problem by serving the same function and the problem itself. Let's examine the concept of shifting the payoff. The negative behavior will continue and intensify as long as the result, the payoff, continues to meet the individual's needs. The teacher must shift the payoff for the student to the positive behavior. Effective interventions reduce the payoff for the negative behavior and increase the payoff for appropriate behaviors that support the learning environment. This is achieved through environmental adaptations and reinforcing or teaching replacement behaviors. Let's look at the example of someone going on a diet. There is a lot of information out there about what not to eat. Don't eat bread, don't eat sweets, don't eat fats, don't eat carbs, etc., etc., etc. Well, if you don't eat the negative behavior, you will eventually get hungry. You can't sustain not eating. You will eventually revert back to your old behaviors and eat again. You may even overeat. What a successful program does is teach you what to eat instead, which is the positive behavior, the replacement behavior. They shift the payoff in this case is no more hunger and loss of weight, to the positive behavior.